Howdy, y'all.
Hola. En nombre, Mac.
Mi nombre
Yeah, I already
es
fucked that up. Whatever.
Alamo.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest, greatest
Yeah.
and ratings just took a shit. That's awesome. Yep, just right in the toilet. I
Turlet
was gonna say latest and greatest, but yeah, I don't know what the hell that was. So, welcome to the
show.
latest show that we have going on here at the Battle Bros Podcast. My name is Mac. Grossy McGrocerson over there, that's Alamo. He's the one who can belch the vowels of the alphabet and go, So, yeah. What's going on, everybody? Glad to have you back. If you're joining our show for the first time, checking us out, thank you for stopping by. Welcome. And hopefully you like what we're going to talk about today. If you haven't been here before, we are two guys that have known each other since high school. We have been friends for going on 20 plus years. We both served in the Army. I was in the National Guard. Alamo was active duty. He went to Iraq. I went to Afghanistan. He's a little bit country. I'm a little bit more rock and roll, but I digress. So, yeah.
I also have a little bit of the crud, so.
And he speaks words, so
Yep.
let's sit over there.
This is going to be a serious
show,
folks. Just a slightly more serious show.
Yes, slightly more serious. We're getting all the ham bonery and flimflammery and chicanery out of the way right now. So if you haven't been here before, we'd appreciate the likes and subscribes and the click that notification button so you can find out when we have new episodes coming out, usually every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern.
And follow us on your audio platform of choice as well. Follow us on your audio platform of choice.
Yes, absolutely. So, we took a week off last week. We had a lot of stuff going on. We had to just kind of reschedule some stuff and kind of hold off on being on the show just because we had a whole lot of crap going on. So that being said, we're back and we're excited to talk about this episode. So if you caught us, our last episode 2 weeks ago, we discussed creature comforts, and what we talked about, we discussed like what kind of things we took with us when we went down range, overseas on deployments and whatnot. Alamo talked about, some of the stuff that he did when he was in Germany, all the fun stuff there, different things here and there, movies, music, creature comforts, all that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty cool episode. Hopefully you'd like to check it out. This week, however, we're going to take a slightly more serious path and have a little bit more of an adult conversation. Not adult in that way, you perverts, get your damn minds out of the dumpsters, and some bastards. We are going to be talking about something that is kind of, people are aware of it, but people still don't really talk about it too much. So we're going to take a deep dive into the stigma behind men's mental health. A lot of people are like, whoa, man, hey, what's that all about? Well, let's kind of discuss that. So we're going to just hit the, kick the tires and light the fires, as they say. So what is a stigma? A stigma is defined as a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. Okay. And the way this conversation came up as we were discussing, some of the things that happen in the military, guys are just, especially guys in combat arms, we're talking infantry guys, rangers, special ops units, that type of shit. These are guys who for a long time, just kind of had that unfortunate situation of like, hey, if you're sucking, don't tell nobody, suck it up and just fucking deal with it by pushing it down into your gut, possibly creating an ulcer. And if it doesn't create an ulcer, hey, that's the price to pay for being a fucking rock star. And go from there. And don't talk
Keep
about
calm and drive on.
Pretty much. So one of the few things, in this day and age we live in, one of the things that is kind of amazing about the day and age we live in is that mental health is not exactly in the shadows anymore. It is well within a person's right, and it's not as, let me find the right way to put this. It's not as absurd for someone to say, "Hey, I'm calling out of work. I'm going to take a mental health day."
Yeah.
All right, cool. A few years ago, people look at you like, "The fuck? What the hell does that mean?" Like, no, you better be your ass here at 8:30. We got work to do. Yeah, about that.
Mhm.
So, um, and that's one of the great things, like I said, about nowadays. Like, there are some of these, stigmatized walls that have been broken down, and they're not quite there anymore. So that's kind of where this whole conversation comes from, especially when it comes to the differences between males and females and this and the other. But also, more pertinent to our sphere of influence is the difference in the military males and their
Right.
mental health and whatnot. So that's kind of where we're going to go with this. Now, part of the reason why we took last week off is we just had a difficult time trying to formulate and kind of categorize. First off,
Essentially, how we were going to break down the show.
props to this guy on the side over here. This guy came in
Rock on.
clutch because yeah, we were able to find a lot of stuff that we needed to find and this that, and the other. So um, it was a lot. We have quite a bit of research here, and we're gonna try to delve into this as much as possible.
A lot of it is probably going to
This,
be more surprising than you think it's going to be, too.
oh yeah, like again,
Yeah.
props to homeboy over here. He found a lot of good articles and stuff to check out. But anyway,
Sorry, guys. If y'all hear me sniff from time to time, it's because I'm starting to get a bit of a case of the crud.
he's got the cred. Absolutely, there, pal.
Oh, shit.
Just stick the booger rag in your nose. Just do the show like that. I mean, fuck it. Right. Gross noise. So anyway, so we were able to find quite a bit of a good amalgamation of data from several articles, all the way from. We have an article that Alamo found where it's from the Department of Health in New York State. We have some stuff about Florida veterans from last year. We have some stuff that was compiled through the use of data from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. A lot of really good stuff. So, yeah, we're gonna kind of. This might be a longer conversation. So if you're watching live at home, if you're listening on your whatever device you choose, go pop a bag of popcorn, get comfy, get your drinks, get your bonbons, whatever the hell you like, get your pogey bait, whatever the case may be. Have a seat.
Settle
We're
in
getting
and
it. We're
join
getting
us.
settle in. What is the symbolism of all this? Anyway, so let's talk about men's mental health, shall we? So, like I said, for a long time, the stigma was if you're a guy in your combat arms, it's like if you had anything wrong with you, if you saw some shit, you were just pretty much, it wasn't really, it might not have been exactly crystal clear and put out like in formation, like it would behoove you to just take this emotional baggage and shove that shit deep down inside the inner confines of your gullet and put a cordon and perimeter on that shit and don't let anybody access unless they've got the pass and the password and a freaking ID card. So yeah.
Yep.
So nowadays, they've realized that hey, that's not exactly a great way. The old way of working, the old way of doing things didn't work. It actually didn't work. It was just total horse shit. So yeah. So but also, like I said, we're going to talk about this in a couple different facets. So let's kind of just start off with just the baseline of this. Let's talk about, males versus females. So
Yeah.
that's probably the easiest way to kind of skirt into this. Now, I want to start off by saying we are not picking on either sex. Okay.
Not in the least, man.
As males, I can tell you as a male, I can tell you where my shortcomings are. I can tell you, shut up at home. You're laughing at that joke already. Calm it down, as you were. And he got it. We are not here to point fingers. We're just looking at some objective type stuff so people can hear it and just be like, yeah, damn, that's some hardcore shit there. So, yeah, males versus females. So, it's kind of understood that females, a lot of times, at least, and you may not be this person, you may have observed it in another person, you may have observed a third party. Females can be a little bit more So what I'm looking here for here, dude.
Emotional.
Emotional. They can be a little bit more, just kind of on the wide spectrum of just like just out there, emotional and
You
a
ladies are
little bit
very
irrational.
much in terms of you're very much more in tune with your feelings. Therefore, you do things much more expressively than males would, if that makes sense.
That's fair. I'm good with that. Whereas guys, we're just kind of meant to be. The way we're designed, the way we're built and structured, whatnot. We can be just a lot more stoic, a little bit
Yeah.
more just kind of like not letting shit bother us. It's like, dude, your leg's amputated. Yeah, I got a tourniquet on it. I'm fine.
Hmm.
It's all good. Inside, we're going, holy fuck, my leg's cut off. But we can't ever show it because
Yeah.
then if we do show that, the old stereotype is like, well, he had his leg cut off, but he's still whining about it. So he's kind of being a bitch,
Bitch.
He's kind of being a pussy. So,
Weakness.
which, yeah, he's showing weakness. Whereas we're just meant to be emotionless. For a long time, we were emotionless. We're just like, if you have a problem, hey, sorry, that sucks. You're not alone. Like there's other people got worse shit going on than you, so deal with it. And sometimes that we can kind of impose that stereotype on ourselves, where it's
Yeah.
like, I really don't want to be the guy that's like over here crying wolf and stuff, but like I just feel like a good ugly cry coming on. Like I'm not wearing mascara, but my mascara is gonna run and shit. It's just like kind of thing. What do you want to add to this here, dude?
No, I agree, man. I would even venture to say that it's because women, uh, and again, none of this is when we talk about this, we're trying to pick on women, but um, women are allowed to express their feelings a little bit more openly than men are when it comes to talking about things like, oh well, I'm stressed out about this. The finances are catching up with me. I'm a little bit. I'm still feeling a little bit in shock about what happened earlier, and I'm feeling very upset about it. Blah blah blah. It's far more socially acceptable for a woman to actually talk about that kind of stuff and actually express their feelings than any kind of male. We could probably get into it when we get into more of the research and the articles that we did. But like for example, I know, for example, one of the articles talked about how a guy was trying to talk to his wife and basically expressed to him that he's trying to he's feeling kind of depressed, and he's feeling very you know anxious and all that other stuff about a certain situation. And his wife essentially told him, did I marry a woman or did I marry a man? It was like, whoa, like, okay.
You see, and I find it the interesting, the dichotomy of all this is like, hey, we're gonna train you to go off and keep this country safe and fight a
Yeah.
war, but we're not gonna do anything about it when you come home and you're fucked up and you become a goddamn statistic. Sorry
Yeah.
for your luck. Thanks for your service. Sucks to suck there, Bucko. Deal with
Yeah.
it. So, but I like how now also there's a lot more resources. Like there's a place up here, um, up where I live. The Oh crap! Now I'm having a brain fart. Mike Rowe has that series on Facebook called "Pay It Forward," paying it
Yeah.
forward or whatnot. I forget the exact title of it. But one of the things that he did, he would go find like stories of stuff from the internet, and people would nominate, businesses or organizations or this, that, and the other, just to say, hey, we're going to help out the best way we can. And one of them was actually here locally in the Tampa Bay area where I reside. Pardon me. I believe it's called a Warriors Place or something like that. Basically, this lady's son was a paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne out of Fort Bragg. He was killed in the war in Afghanistan, I believe. He was a casualty of the global war on terrorism. So she just kind of has this place where it's got a bunch of cabins. People can just kind of stay there for a couple of days and just kind of like mellow out, just kind of find their center again or whatnot. One of the things that they did was they got a boat that was wheelchair accessible. So you have disabled veterans that can like wheel their wheelchairs onto this boat, go out in the bay,
Nice.
go fishing, just be out in the water, be in that calm, serene environment, just, all that kind of cool, woosah horse, all that woosah environment and whatnot. Funny enough, they were actually in the news. I saw them a while ago, where they're actually probably going to be relocating a little bit further south because of the fact that the area around it is being has some houses on it, and the road going into that property is no longer a private road. It is now the domain of of Hillsborough County and whatnot. So it's an interesting article about that. I think the lady said she was going to be moving somewhere down into like Palmetto or somewhere in that area. But that's
Nice.
just one example of another good example. There is a special ops veteran by the name of Tom Spooner, who I believe was in Delta Force. Like, you're talking about pipe hitting motherfucker, right? And he had suffered from a couple of, I think he had a couple of TBIs and concussions and whatnot from being a breacher and all this other crazy
Mhm.
high speed hoorah horseshit type stuff. And he has a thing out. I want to say it's in Texas, and it's called a Warrior's Heart, or a Warrior's Heart. And basically, you just go out there, and it's like they have help for guys that are like trying to get kicked off of, drug and substance addiction and this, that, and the other. But you can just go out there, and you know, the it kind of conjures up the image of people sitting around a campfire singing "Kumbaya," but that was the uninformed, sarcastic, old school way of looking at it. Now you have guys actually sitting here talking about their struggles and just being like, dude, I was in a fucking bad place and I'm on a bad fucking path and I need help and stuff. And it's just like, yeah. And you got some of these guys, like, you have this guy, Tom Spooner, who, like, if you know his story, dude, like, he is a legit badass, like, legit badass. Like, he is the absolute, just complete, just stud of all studs and whatnot. Um, and he's the one pushing for all this kind of stuff to happen, which is pretty cool. If you're watching or listening, okay, there he is. Just about to say
Yeah.
you cut off for a minute.
I don't know how I backed out, but I
I don't
backed
know
out.
either. But yeah, so
Anyway, go ahead.
you have Tom's, you have a special ops guy going, we can do something about this. Absolutely. Let's try to fix this kind of stuff. You
No.
have all these other guys, at least when you have, and I think that's another equal part of it too. You have these guys that are, the modern day equivalent of Roman gods sitting here. I mean, just the peak, of the absolute pinnacle of, physical, capability, and specimens of just being so physical and whatnot. And you have these guys saying, hey, I need help, I'm in a bad spot, like, crap, like, kind of deal. So I mean, that's kind of helping to break that stigma right there. You have these guys saying, hey, I was once this guy and I struggled. Like, let's call it what it is. It's a suck fest, and let's try to do something about this shit. How about it? So, do you have anything you want to say to add to that there, dude?
Um. No, honestly, I think you kind of covered that part kind of well, man.
Okay. So another aspect of this that we wanted to talk about too, if you see the lighting in my side of the screen, like, going on and coming off and stuff, it's my computer is old as shit. And yeah, it's not your computer, it's not your tablet, it's not your viewing device. Shut up, don't shut up. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's just I'm working with a fixed deck here, so it is what it is. But so I was talking to our good buddy Brian, who has been provided some content and some feedback many, many, many times to this show, of which we are eternally humbly thankful. Brian, you're awesome, dude. Appreciate you so much. Every time you can, venture your stuff. Oh, there we go. War Daddy Withers up in the freaking chat room. All right. All right.
All
All
right,
right. All
all
right. All
right, all
right.
right, all right.
But what was this? Oh yeah. So looking at it, so let's kind of change gears a little bit and look at this also from the
Yeah.
military side of things, and not just military. So we kind of briefly touched on the military, but there's also a couple of very different modes of operating when we talk about folks coming back from deployment. So active duty and Alamo, please feel free to correct me on anything that I say where I'm talking out of my ass here. But it seems like on active duty, when you come back, you're going to have, you're going to get back into that routine of things like you were when you're in garrison. You're going to have formations, accountability formations, checking in 3 times a day, morning, midday before you go to lunch, final formation during the day. You have counselings. You're going to have freaking, hip pocket training, this, that, and the other. Does that sound about right?
A lot of it was cleaning weapons, cleaning equipment, just,
Trying to get back to normal.
trying to get back to normal, settling in. I know for a fact when we got back, if I remember correctly, the first week we were back, I mean, we really didn't do much of anything. Yeah, we had our, accountability meetings. We had our, check-ins where, we had to fucking, have the guys kind of come out, make sure everybody's here. We still did PT, all that good stuff. But other than that, I mean, there really wasn't much to it.
The big thing was just to keep you guys from going out there and getting
Stupid.
annihilated. Yeah, stupid. Yeah. You got guys that go on deployments for 12, sometimes 15 months, and they come home and they're like, well, I can drink like I used to.
No.
Wrong.
No.
You are go. Preceded by a motherfucking no. Not going to work. I mean, your liver is a muscle, so you got to train it back up,
It's one of the few muscles that can actually rebuild itself, and regrow.
Mm-hmm.
But
I have a buddy of mine who
takes a while.
Buddy of mine was involved in an accident in a warehouse where he got pinned between a wall and a forklift, and it actually ruptured. It ruptured his spleen. It didn't puncture anything, just the pressure from that ruptured his liver, and it actually just kind of healed and grew back together. I was like, no shit.
Yeah.
He's like, yep, pretty cool. They were never in the Navy. All right, nice. There. All right, there. Yeah. We got you there, pal. No, but so the interesting thing of that, so let's switch gears and look at a reserve component. So when I came home, we came home in July of 2006. We had the whole brigade was invited to hear the governor. At the time, it was Governor Jeb Bush, W's little brother. He was the governor of the Bushes. He was the governor at the time. What the hell was that? Was that your child?
It's possible.
Okay. You have a zoo going on over there with those two boys, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Instead of we bought a zoo, it's like we live in a zoo. We live in the primate exhibit.
The birthday iteration where they say you look like a monkey and you act like one too. Yeah.
They weren't joking. Yeah. They were telling it like it is. But anyway, so when you have when we came home, so you go from you have the active duty side of things where you have accountability, you're keeping track of your guys, make sure they're not being stupid, and that's a broad, all-encompassing term, right?
Yes, it is.
National Guard, we came home, we had a nice little hooray for us. We came home, everybody got a coin from the governor.
Hurrah, hurrah.
Pretty much hooray for you. Bafangu to everybody else. And then we didn't go to drill for 3 months. That's 90 days where we have no military affiliation or obligation whatsoever unless we got called up for a state of emergency, which did not happen. It's the middle of the year, hurricane stuff. If you're a National Guard guy from Florida or a gal from Florida, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. That's usually later in the year, kind of like in the late third to early fourth quarter of the year. But yeah, so you have all these guys, so they're reservists. They may not have insurance. They may not have access to the type of stuff they would have on active duty and whatnot. So you have all these people that are just kind of like, yeah. So you sit there, and that can lead to a lot of bad things like isolation. You get into your own head. You kind of just go down that bad path, and that could be an increase in some type of addictive substance or addictive personality or addictive behaviors or whatnot. It can be a little bit scary. I know you called everybody withers. I appreciate that. I appreciate you calling me and all that good shit. They don't make them like you much anymore, my dude. So
sure don't.
but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like thinking about it, like I never really knew. I thought that was like for everybody. It's just like, okay, yeah, you go home, you get time off. It's like, no, big difference. So we were through some very exhaustive processes. We were able to find some um, articles that kind of prove the point of what we're talking about with mental health and whatnot. So I'm going to start off with one. This is a website from AmericanAddictionCenters.org/veterans/stress. So the contributor is a gentleman by the name of James White, who is a retired lieutenant out of the Navy. He was a SEAL, and now he has his MBA, and he is also he's a physician's assistant, I believe, a PA. And if that's the incorrect thing, tell me, make fun of me, call me stupid, whatever. I get it. So yeah, so there's some pretty damning information in the I'm on the wrong one. What happened? Here we go. So yeah, it's just insane. So I'm gonna kind of jump around this article a little bit and talk about some of the stuff that we saw in here. So the United States is committed to a prolonged state of armed conflict, which has created a crisis for veterans. The crucial issue of mental health care for veterans is more important than ever before due to the considerable number of veterans returning from combat missions who have experienced episodes of PTSD or other mental health conditions. More than 1.5 million of the 5.5 million veterans seen in VA hospitals had a mental health diagnosis in 2016. This represents a 31% increase since 2004. The changing nature of warfare increases the chance for injuries that affect mental health. Veterans also face significant challenges upon returning home. These are just a couple of reasons why PTS diagnoses are on the rise. The potential negative effects of mental health issues such as suicide affect the more than 107,000 veterans who are homeless on any given night. 107,000 homeless veterans. I tell you what,
That's
man,
insane, man.
if that doesn't get your fucking blood boiling, it's just like, bro, like,
Like, where are these guys? Where's the help for these guys when they need it?
I'm
You know
not
what I
trying to
mean?
get into politics of the contemporary politics shit, but like, how the fuck are we not looking out for these people? These people gave of themselves, wrote a blank check that says up to and including the cost of my life for the country, and they're homeless. Like, wrong fucking answer. Alarming numbers of veterans die by suicide each day, which makes a response to veteran mental health needs more urgent with each passing day. In their landmark study, Schobaum and Kessler examined the common mental health disorders among Army participants and whether the disorder developed prior to entering the Army. So they go down and they start to talk about a bunch of different stuff here. They have United States medical. They're doing some. They had some information they got from United States Military Entrance Processing Command, which is MEPS. A whole bunch of different stuff. So we're gonna get down to like where they have some cold hard facts that we can read here. So war stressed by the numbers. The military employs over 1.3 million men and women. According to the Rand Corporation, there have been a total of 1.4 million combat deployment years to Iraq and Afghanistan from 2001 to 2018. This includes individuals with multiple deployments. Okay. According to the United States War Dogs Association, there were 1.6 million combat deployment years to Vietnam. Wow, I can't read tonight. Combat deployment years to Vietnam when the Department of Defense had 2.7 million active duty members. So you have just as much, okay, but you had a hell of a lot more people. All right, they had a lot more manpower they could call on to go over and do that kind of stuff. In their book, The $3 Trillion War, The True Cost of the Iraq Conflict, economists Joseph E. Stiglitz and Linda J. Bilmes
Stieglitz.
shut up.
No.
State gross estimates of treating veterans with PTSD will reach over 950 billion with a B exceeding the total cost of the war, right? Just insane. Historically, and Stiglitz stated, historically, the cost of caring for war veterans rises for several decades, peaks 30 to 40 years or more after a conflict. This will be especially true for veterans of the current wars who are already utilizing VA medical services and applying for disability benefits at much higher rates than in previous wars. And that's, and that's something fun. It's interesting that that's said because of the fact that I remember a gentleman who I met when I was working in retail who's a Vietnam vet. He goes, dude, he's like, you need to go and freaking get yourself hooked up with the VA, get yourself in there. Don't wait until later on. Do it now when you're a young man, so that way they have everything going. I've been through 7 doctors for mental health. Yeah, I hear you, Withers. I hear you, man. We had talked about that previously, you and I. It's just fucking. It's just mind numbing how that's going on and stuff. It's crazy. So we're gonna go into some statistics here. So PTSD sufferers are at higher risk for heart disease, rheumatoid
Yep.
arthritis, bronchitis, asthma, liver and peripheral arterial disease. Veterans are 200% more likely to be diagnosed with the disease within 5 years from returning from deployment. The cost of caring for war veterans peaks 30 to 40 years after conflict, but there are no provisions to cover these future obligations in current wars. Future medical and disability costs for Iraq and Afghanistan veterans will total between $600 billion and $1 trillion. Compensated costs include the loss of income from injured veterans and their family caregivers and diminished quality of life. It's just insane. Okay. So, yeah, as I know we're getting into, so this isn't exactly mental health. This is kind of some stuff that goes along with this.
Oh, absolutely, dude.
Yeah. So going down further, statistics from the Veterans Affairs, 20%. So among veterans experienced, now this is getting back to the homelessness part of it. Among veterans experiencing homelessness who received healthcare services from the VA, 28% received a diagnosis of chronic medical conditions. Another 28% received a diagnosis of depression. 13% had a diagnosis of PTSD. 19 received a diagnosis of alcohol abuse. 19%. 20% received a diagnosis of drug abuse. And it says note down here that there is not very good data currently available regarding the health services veterans receive outside of the VA system. Well, I mean, it was just until recently, a few years ago, where that was even a fucking option, where you could go to your
Yeah.
local hospital and say, "Hey, the VA is going to pay for this and reimburse me," because otherwise you'd have to trek freaking sometimes 2-3 hour drives away, because as you know, they're getting better about opening up some of the clinics. Like I know down in Riverview, they actually they have a small VA clinic down there to kind of in that area, because that area has had such a big population boom in the last 10 years that it just makes sense. You have all these people trying to get over to the freaking to James A. Haley, over there in Tampa. It's like that can be a hike sometimes. It can take you an hour to get from Riverview over there to Tampa by on the north end of USF. It's like, holy shit balls, man. It's like that's a lot. And half the time you're just like, you know, there, there's been plenty of people. I'm sure I've had the thought where I'm just like, why do I need to fucking go? They're just gonna tell me shit I already know. I understand I'm getting help, but like, what's the fucking point? Like, I'm just gonna wait around. I'm not a priority. I'm just another number, another blank face in the crowd. It's so damn disappointing. Like the VA has the potential to do such good, and I'm not knocking the VA. They do a decent job. Okay, are they there for us? Yes. Could they do a lot better job? Hell, fuck yes, absolutely.
They do better than they used to. I'll
They
say
have,
that.
and I think there's been a lot of high profile. Like I was telling somebody today, like there was a guy. I want to say he was a Marine colonel, a retired Marine colonel, who was outside of Pembroke Pines, which is a VA facility in St. Pete, and he just got to the point where just of being frustrated, and he went out there, parked in the parking lot. He had two big old file boxes of like just cram packed full of his medical records and stuff from the service, from afterwards. I mean, you're talking some extensive shit, and he just felt like there was no way out, and he sat there and freaking He sat on top of those two boxes and put the barrel of a pistol in his mouth and pulled the trigger and killed himself. Like, and that's unfortunate. Like, that's something that we're all against. But in a
Yeah.
way, it's kind of you're kind of forcing their hand of having to bring some attention to it. And yes, Withers did bring up a good point.
Yeah.
The VA does a good job. It just depends on the administration in office. I
Yeah.
would agree with that.
I'll agree with that as well.
For the most part, not to get into the political side of things, but it's like certain times is better. Certain times it's like could be a lot to be desired. So,
Yar.
but anyway, back to the statistics and the cold hard facts. So, information from the VA, the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, the United States, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the Corporation for Supportive Housing shows that. Okay, so I'm going to warn you, this could be a little triggering. This could be a little bit, it'll get you fucking blood pressure coming out of your neck. Just, got the jugular just kind of throbbing right there, the base of your throat there. Over 968,000 veterans lived in poverty in the last year. 20,000 veterans with government-sponsored mortgages lost their homes in 2010. 76% of homeless veterans experience alcohol, drug, or mental health issues. 30.2% of veterans ages 18 to 24 are unemployed. That boggled my mind. I could not believe that. You have all these young, able-bodied people that are just not able to, for whatever reason, to go to, whether they're not able to do it or they have, some type of issue or diagnosis preventing them from doing so. It's like, this is like the youth of America here. They're just entering the workforce and serving the military and all this other crazy stuff. So the rest of this is like insane. 89%. So, there's probably folks out there that think, oh, these people are homeless, they're malcontents, they had bad conduct discharges or dishonorable discharges. Not so fast. According to this same article, 89% of these veterans received an honorable discharge. 67%, 2/3, served 3 years or more. 47% are Vietnam veterans. 15% served before Vietnam. 5.5% are Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. Okay.
You know what boggles my mind about that part though? Like what I've noticed is that there's a lot of employers, and I've seen it just from the like contractors and things like that I have come in at work. A lot of them tend to think that veterans are unstable. A lot of them tend to think that veterans are unable to work in the real world, and basically they make it very clear that they're scared of what a veteran could do if something triggers them.
I do agree with that 100%. Like that's such horseshit, because that's an agenda that Hollywood's pushing.
Yeah.
People see it in movies, and I'm not saying they're doing it maliciously or on purpose, but at the same time, it fits a narrative. You have a movie like, for instance, one of the great 80s movies, Rambo. You have John Rambo, who is a hero to this country. He gets lost, he gets disillusioned from everything he went through over there, and all of a sudden he's a drifter, he's a malcontent. And yeah, that's a cool story. But what's worse is the fact that there's fucking truth in that, and he gets treated different because he's just just a product of what happened over there and all that shit. And it's just like, does it happen? Unfortunately, yeah. Stereotypes exist from somewhere. They come from a certain place. What's that?
Some more extreme than others.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. But yeah, I mean, they come from a place of somebody seeing it or experiencing.
Withers says that he's lost promotions because of it.
Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right, though. I mean, people just think, going back. So let's think back. Going back to when we did our first VIP panel with Mr. Lee. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Brent Lee for doing the first one. Thanks again, pal. We love you, buddy. He even brought up that point. He was like, you gotta be a little bit creative. You gotta think outside the box when you're doing your resumes and stuff. Yeah, it's cool because I remember somebody telling me a story. It's like, yeah, you go and you fill out your resume. You got all this cool high-speed shit that you got from the Army. You were scout platoon and scout reconnaissance, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to walk up to the customer. You're going to smile. You're going to say, hey, do you want paper or plastic? And then you bag all their shit and put it in the cart. Questions. Out fucking standing. And it's like you do all that cool stuff and it doesn't translate over, especially for guys in combat arms. I mean, unless you get smart and, can really find good ways to, use that talent, and it might not just be freaking hitting pipe and, pulling triggers and all that kind of bullshit. But I mean, going back to all this is a reason why, like, look at all the guys, that went over there to Vietnam to fight an unpopular war. And then they came back and everybody's spitting on them and calling them baby killers and saying, don't wear uniforms home. Like, yeah, that would kind of fuck with my mental health a little bit,
Absolutely.
especially guys that you just couldn't handle that and they end up homeless. Or, one of the things that Brian was talking about a while back we were kind of shooting the breeze and whatnot. He used to do outreach and actually go out into the field and go out into the general populace, into the community, and find and try to get these guys help that needed help, that were living like in their cars or out in the freaking, in the woods and in like the freaking wild scrubby areas of, I don't mean scrubby as in like bad people. I'm talking about like, just like living in like the weeds and the thickets out there and just all that kind of crazy shit. So, but I mean, I don't really need to say much else. I'm going to read this last part on the suicide. I'm going to hand it over to Alamo. He can kind of add some stuff here. So it says veterans are 1.5 times, 1.5 times more likely to commit suicide than people who have never served in the military. According to the National Suicide Data Report from 2005 to 2016, suicide rates among veterans aged 18 to 34 have been swelling steadily for more than 10 years, jumping 10% from 2015 to 2016 alone. It jumped 10% in one calendar year. Holy fuck, people. Like, we got to do something about this. The same report also states that the rate for these young veterans increased to 45 suicide deaths per 100,000 populations in 2016, up from 40.4 in 2015, even as the overall veteran suicide rate decreased slightly. Lastly, it says over 30% of veterans are enrolled in VA care, and there are reports that find disparities in that care given. Okay, like hell, they had that art. If you are familiar with a guy named Angry Cops, who has a channel, he does a lot of satire, does a lot of just really like funny sarcasm, witty type shit. But he was talking about a guy who is a veteran in the Canadian military, and he went to the Canadian VA equivalent. I don't know if it's called VA, but they were just like, he's like, I need help, and they said, why don't you just go for MAID? It's like, what's MAID? And it's like mutual aid in dying, pretty much. And they told him, yeah, why don't you just go put a bullet in your mouth? It's like, how in the fuck can you go and serve the queen or the king? The king now, but like, how can you go and serve the crown and just get turned around and get told, yeah, you should just fucking just off yourself? It's like, no wonder our mental health is in the shitter. I mean, especially nowadays when it's just like, the military is not the same thing it was. It's very different, and that happens.
Not
I mean,
in the least.
It's yeah. So Withers was saying in the chat room comment section, he's like, he was saying he remembers his dad couldn't go into town with his uniform on, and people were calling him a murderer. And this was 1973.
1973, yeah.
And Saigon fell in 1972. This was right after the war. So
exactly, yeah.
But anyway, I mean, what do you want to add? I know I've been kind of hogging the mic here, buddy. But what do you want to say about all this?
No, I was honestly, I'm looking at the VA statistics according to Florida, according just to Florida State, and like if you look at the staggering numbers on here, man, and talking about the situations where you talk about how guys essentially get told, "Oh yeah, well, you should go and kill yourself and blah 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 blah." And just that's just plain messed up, dude.
I mean,
And
geez, I don't mean to cut you off again, dude, but like
no, you're good. You're good.
looking on, it's the first page of the Florida Veteran Suicide Data Sheet at the very
Yeah,
bottom. It has two sections side by side, right?
yeah,
So it says Florida veteran suicide rate, and it says Florida suicide rate. So it's the third and fourth. It's the two sections that are highlighted in red from
yeah.
the right hand side. So overall, Florida suicide rate is 18.7. Among the veteran suicide rate, it's
34
34%.
percent.
Ages 18 to 34, non-veteran is 14 and a half. Veteran is 43%.
Yeah,
35 to 54, non-veteran is 19.9. Veteran is
34.
35.4. Age 55 to 74, non-veteran is
20.1.
20.1, and then the veteran rate is 30.5. 75 and up for non-veterans is 21.8%, and then for the veterans it's 35. It's staggeringly higher.
Yeah,
It's
it,
just
it's it's
absolutely insane.
and the thing, and that's where it's very important that we have to cover this, because that right there, that is a travesty in itself. What are we doing that is not allowing guys to talk about what is going on with them? Now, don't get me wrong. There are times when a guy, as a man, there's times when you should, you know, talk about your problems, and there's a time and a place and people you should talk about it with. But what is going on that is stopping just men in the veteran community, just men in general, from being able to talk about simple little gestures that would help? You know, it. I'm sorry, but if you think about like, if you look at
It's
the
a crock of horse shit.
if you look at the 2016 rating that they have here, like, as a matter of fact, uh, what you call it? I'm gonna go ahead and share it real quick.
Yeah, man, go for it.
If you look at the 2016 rating that they have, right, right here, if you notice that number right at the top, right here, 2016, there were
Can you can you
506.
can you go ahead and like right there in the middle of the gray bar? Can you zoom that in a little bit to like maybe
Yeah,
125 or so? Yeah, perfect. And then scroll over so they can see it if they're watching at home.
506 compared to 24 female suicides in 2016. That's 2016. And if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, that's not that long ago. 506 compared to 24.
Yeah.
That is, I hate, I really, it's unacceptable, man. It's absolutely unacceptable.
And they're
It is,
wondering, and to kind of tie it into like current events and stuff, it's like they're wondering why they're having such a hard time meeting recruiting numbers. It's like, well,
yeah,
no shit. You're gonna go in there and do a thankless job, get shit on for it, and expect you to be like, frosted flakes. And it doesn't fucking work like that, you know? It goes back to that whole false motivation is better no motivation
yeah,
bullshit. Like if you're not motivated, if you're fucking sucking wind or sucking emotionally,
yeah.
fucking say something. So either I can help you or I can get somebody to help
Damn.
you, and I can maybe just kind of unass the
Withers says that, not to cause shit, the nation cares more about doctors and nurses than they do about veterans. I get it from my niece who is a nurse, telling me that she is more standing than me. End quote.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, listen, and again,
I'm
we're
sorry,
not
dude.
we're not
That's
trying
just
to
not.
marginalize anybody. We're not trying to,
No.
we're not trying to stigmatize anybody. We're not trying to. You got frosted. we're not trying to, single anybody out. We're not trying to point fingers here, but there's just a lot to be said. It's like, you know, you go like, okay, so let's kind of back up a little bit. Let's
Yeah.
kind of go back down memory lane. 2003, I go off to, I joined the army. I go to basic training, and it was a big, 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 big deal, right? Especially during a time of war, doing your part. It was our generation's Pearl Harbor, right? Everybody knows that. And you get trained to go off and fight the war and this, that, and the other. And then, it just seems like it went on so long to the point people just kind of stopped giving a fuck. And they're just
Yeah.
like, we're tired of hearing about this, It's like this, that, and the other. And it's just like, it's like a whole paradigm shift. Like everybody just went like, how freaking
War fatigue.
right after 9/11, everybody was, singing songs like Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue and American Soldier by Toby Keith and all these other many artists and whatnot. And just like, patriotism was at an all-time high. And it just got to the point where everybody's just like, it drug on. Nobody's watching the news anymore, this, that, and the other. And it's just
Yeah.
like, you go over there and you start off and like, imagine being in for 20 years during that time frame. Like you go in right after 9/11. Like, dude, if I had stayed in, I could be retiring this year at 20 years. It's like,
Yeah.
it wasn't in the cards for me. Hey, I'm not trying to, give anybody a blast of shit or anything. That was my choice and my choice alone. And, just I am who I am because of where I'm at right now. And that's, it is what it is, So, but it's just amazing what kind of emotional, think about that. You have the emotional roller coaster of being in from 2001 or 2003 when I joined. And then so I joined in March. So March 11th of this year was when I enlisted. March 12th, excuse me. March 12th is when I enlisted 20 years ago. So it's just like, fuck, that's a long time. But just to go through the emotional ups and downs of all that, going from we're going over there, we're taking out evil, we're taking out these people that are just fucking awful. And then it goes down to the way if things closed out in Afghanistan and the way things just kind of died off. And it was just, yeah, like it's kind of no wonder that there's a fucking stigma of mental health because like everything just changed. We get told one thing, it changes with the next administration, with the next freaking bean counting political minded putzes that are up there on Capitol Hill or whatnot. And again, I'm not trying to single anybody out. I'm not trying to take
Yeah.
party sides here. I'm just saying in general. All right.
And then we're told we're weak and all this other shit when we want to express ourselves, or that we're stupid, or that
Didn't
essentially.
somebody didn't somebody call us deplorables at one
Oh,
point?
somebody did call us deplorables at one point. Yeah, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
It's just like, oh, funny.
Mm.
First one to cry, when the wolf's at the door, when the bad guy's at the door and at the gates and stuff. And then after that, I'm like, okay, we don't need you anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Go away. I don't know, man. Like this is
It's rough,
it,
man. It's
it
rough.
is.
It's hard. It's hard to not get pissed off reading this shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many things going to like this could be a conversation that we could have for a month. We could have like 4 shows on this, and it's just like there's a lot to
Absolutely.
cover. And yeah, it's just insane, So there's another article here that said PTSD and veteran statistics. Actually, let me go back. So there's an article on here. It's from a website called singlecare.com, and this was an article that was put out January 20th of this year from this website. Now, this one's kind of more generalized, talking about PTSD and different things. So it has a section in this article called PTSD and veterans. It says here that an estimated 354 million adult war survivors globally have PTSD and or major depression. In one study of 1,938 veterans, a PTSD prevalence of about 14% was present in veterans who served in Iraq, according to the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. In reports, a 10% prevalence of PTSD has been extrapolated for all Gulf War veterans, and that was from the American Journal of Epidemiology from 2003. And then from the American Psychological Association in 1990, about 30% of Vietnam veterans have had PTSD in their lifetime. So, yeah, I mean, it's like, well, no kidding. We're going over and doing all this stuff that nobody else wants to do, and then it's like, I'd be a little bit pissed off too if I felt like I was like abused, mentally abused, and then just thrown in the refuse can and shit. It's like, it's just an absolute crock of shit, So, and that's why it's important to change the narrative on that. I'm sorry. Withers actually put Rudyard Kipling. It's God the soldier we adore in time of danger, not before. When danger gone, all things righted. God forgotten soldier slighted. So, do we want to go over the New York State brief real quick? The behavioral risk factor surveillance system. That sounds a little bit long-winded.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, but there's like, I was kind of impressed. This was a 7-page document, and it goes into a lot of shit. Yeah, a lot of shit. Percentage of veterans in New York State by demographic identifiers. It's like, yeesh, I don't even know how to read half this shit. It's just but it goes into some stuff like educational attainment. It goes into
by ethnicity, all that shit, age
employment
groups,
status. Like, they really break down. They go through a wide swath of categorizing the characterizing. I can't talk. Disability status. They go through like current smoker, binge or heavy drinking, sugar sweet beverage consumption 1+ times a day. Well, this guy right here. Like, after I get off the show, I'll probably go to the gas station and get a drink. So
yeah,
go get a soda pop or something. But they have some interesting stuff here about healthcare access indicators, avoided medical care due to cost, has a healthcare provider, has healthcare coverage, has a routine health checkup in the past year, self-assessed health and depression. Like, they really freaking just really broke this stuff down. So all this stuff's available online. This is the 2021-2022 BRFSS Veterans Health Report. This is the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System. According to this, says it's an annual telephone survey of adults developed by the CDC, and conducted in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and several U.S. territories. The New York BRFSS is administered by New York State Department of Health to provide statewide and regional information on behaviors, risk factors, and use of preventative health services related to the leading causes of chronic and infectious diseases, disability, injury, and death. So, yeah, it says estimated 969,000 adults, or 6.1% of New York's adult population, are veterans. That's actually pretty high, it seems like. A million plus people, almost a million people. It's like,
well, I mean, you gotta accept one thing. New York was probably the hardest hit out of the 9/11 terrorist attacks.
Oh, well, of course. I mean,
so a lot of New Yorkers were.
But not just that. I mean, think about the folks. Think about the folks that have freaking, PTSD and all that kind of crazy stuff from the attacks themselves. I have a friend of mine. Friend of mine's like, dude, he's like, he's telling his mom, he's like, she doesn't go down past a certain street. She's like, I ain't been down past 15th Street, since that day.
Long
fucking time. So, but anyway, I mean, like I was saying, with all these different articles, and the research is out there, folks. Not to get into political, the weeds here, but like, do yourself a favor, go out there and just try to do a thorough job of, like, that's why we took a week off from doing this show, because we wanted to make sure that we had the right kind of statistics here and facts and stuff. And all this stuff can be looked up. It can all be accessed on the internet and whatnot. So, like, go out and find it. Because anything you get handed to you is just going to be like, somebody's going to have a swerve to it or some kind of slant and this and that and the other. So, like, yeah.
Use the analytics.
Oh, shit. I didn't even see this.
What was that?
The second page of that Florida veteran suicide data sheet, they actually break down the types of suicides and stuff by method for 2016. Wow. Like, I don't really think that's going to matter much, because that's just going to be fuel to the fire for some folks out there. But like,
Absolutely.
you can go out and look. I mean, it's pretty damning evidence too. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. It's just like, yeah. So, I mean, you can look it up, but it's pretty damning information out there. So,
Yeah. So there was another article I found. It was in Psychology Today, and it was basically
was that one of the hyperlinks that you found?
one of a couple, actually. I think it's actually done by the same guy. It's Rob Whitley, and he's actually a PhD. One of his first article was why so many men resist talking about their mental health.
I did see that one. Yeah, I didn't read that one all the way through, but I did peruse over it a little bit. But go ahead, please.
And basically, he kind of breaks it down into a couple of different factors. One of them was, who is listening, essentially. And it says there's an assumption that there is a reservoir of competent and helpful people willing and able to empathetically listen to men with mental health. Yeah, go
Real
ahead.
quick, is it the one that you have that's highlighted right there? Psychology Today. It's about halfway down that first page.
Probably, yeah.
How to talk to a man about his mental health.
Yep.
Okay.
There's that one, and then why so many men refuse
The second
to talk
one,
about
why
it.
so many men are resisting. Okay.
Yeah. Health issues. However, the scientific evidence indicates that is not necessarily the case. In my own research studies, I have regularly heard men state that they have tried to talk about their mental health, but have been shut down. Are you guys listening to that? Shut down. He even goes down to list a couple of examples. It says, a divorced middle-aged gentleman told me that he phoned his only sibling during an incipient mental health crisis, but was asked to call back in a few hours as the sibling was watching a movie. When he called back, the call went to voicemail. An immigrant father was struggling with mental health issues that affected his ability to work and provide for his family. When he tried to discuss it with the issues with his wife, this is the one I was telling you about. She would scold him by stating, "Are you a husband? Are you a man?" Another example was a male student noted that he has tried to talk about his mental health issues with various peers, but found that they quickly zoned out and reached for their cell phones. He gained a reputation as a whiner and lost his friends as a consequence.
See, the fucking phones are evil, man. Like, straight up, and I'm guilty of that shit myself. Like,
yeah,
they're just human connection is just such a fucking paramount part of our society, and we are vastly fucking that up and missing it. Like,
absolutely.
Put your goddamn phones down, people. Fucking talk to somebody. Listen to somebody that needs to talk. Like, and this is why the fourth tenet of the Bros Code is what it is.
Seek out help in a time of need.
But what's most importantly, if somebody comes to you for help, be the bigger fucking person and like help them out. Seriously, it's like, Jesus Christ, I can't. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, you keep reading, man. Listen, Withers, I can't spell either. It's all good, man. We know what you're trying to
say. Basically, it goes into he even goes into workplace issues. It says instead of talking to people on their social network, men with mental health issues also have the option to seek out and consult trained therapists and all that good stuff. However, there are many unacknowledged and oft ignored barriers to such action, often revolving around employment. Of note, men still remain the primary breadwinner in a typical family, and their income is essential for food, shelter, and quality of life. This means men tend to work longer hours than women and are constantly striving to impress their employer with a view to pay raises, promotions, and job security. As such, many men are averse to taking time off for health reasons to avoid perceptions that they are unreliable employees. This is especially true if the employee wishes to take time off to see mental health professionals. Some research indicates that certain employers equate mental health illness and malingering, hypochondria, and laziness. Moreover, when men with mental health issues may be stereotyped as dangerous. Are you hearing this? Is anybody getting this so far? Unpredictable and a threat to workplace morale in male dominated workplaces that put a premium on safety issues such as police, military, transport, and oil and gas. Now, I've heard of, and please understand, folks, when I say these things, I tend to believe that the fairer sex is probably just as capable of violence in certain ways, and probably sometimes just as capable as being dangerous as men to a certain degree. Um, Case in point, Casey Anthony. Case in point. Actually, let me not go too far into that because I don't want to be. I don't want us to be shadow banned. But uh, you get my point. It's a bit ridiculous the fact that if we're so it's kind of a double standard. If we talk about our problems, we're looked at in a way that makes us be or makes us look in some way, shape, or form weak, puny, dangerous, as the article clearly states, and a danger, like, and not only just dangerous, but a danger to society.
Inferior.
I can understand. You know, kind of. I don't understand how, you know, trying to talk about your problems, and then when you seek help for your problems, you're looked at worse than before you were asked to seek out help for your problems.
Let me interject.
I can't comprehend that.
Let me interject real quick. Look at all the some of the greatest leaders and inspirational people of time. Gandhi. You have all these people that were sitting here that had a problem, and they, kept getting told, "Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." They fucking did something about it. They freaking freed the oppressed. They, helped solve problems with, equality and pay issues and all this that. What if they listened to all that shit and just like, yeah, maybe he's right. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So why is it any different? One person does it, and it's okay. A subculture of society gets told, "Hey, don't worry about that shit. Just keep going to work and hustle and bustle and bust your ass for 30, 40 years and, live out yourself, live out your time with your family because you're, fucking broken in so many places from busting your ass for somebody that would replace you in a heartbeat if you were to die while working for them." It's just like there's so many things that go down this path. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
There are so many things that just go down this path of the mental health stigma. It's like there's so many things you have, pseudo social norms of the modern society that we live in with social media, and like that's
which I mean,
conversation.
Honestly, if you look at society as a whole right now, to listen to anything they have to say about what a man should be, kiss my ass. Sorry.
And again, not trying in the political thing, but I love the whole thing where it said how it had a picture of like how guys dressed in like the 1920s. Guy was wearing a suit, had on an overcoat, fedora, had on nice shoes. And nowadays you have like two guys like the fucking Island Boys. Like, what is with those dingbats? Like
Harry Styles.
What about Harry Styles?
Look up pictures, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay, hold on.
But yeah, on what he was saying, it's just Withers. He said, "Yep." Oh Lord. Um, yeah, I just I don't understand. You know, I really don't. I don't understand the standards nowadays for like you know people want men to be less aggressive, less this, less that, the other, whatever.
Dude,
And
okay,
I
so
just
to quote your buddy, to quote
hmm
Jocko,
hmm
it's like, and there's a great veteran that I kind of follow from time to time, Nick Kumalatsos, who is a guy that he wrote a book called Excommunicated Warrior, and
yeah,
it's the 7 stages of separation from the military, and he talks about, like, yeah, guys should be out there, they should be warriors, like, you have these, you should be able to be the protector of your family and this, that, and the other. Like, you
damn
should
right.
be a fucking psychopath, when it comes to the safety and well-being. And I mean psychopath, I don't mean that like literally like having some type of mental deficiency or diagnosis of mental deficiency, but you should be able to go out there and just, again, they want you to be aggressive. They want you to be fucking,
Yeah.
cutthroat, and they want you to be
A,
out there and just be able to fucking
a,
stack bodies when there's shit going down.
a
Other than that,
way that I've heard it is you must be a peaceful man that is capable of great violence when
yes,
necessary.
yes, I've seen that. Um, am I seeing this right? In that he's wearing, like, you would probably say, if effeminate looking clothes.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's whatever. I mean, we live in 2023, so I mean, it comes with the territory, I guess. But it's not for me.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to judge, but I'm just like, okay, might click
Yeah.
out of that tab. So,
Yep. Yeah. But I just I don't
I don't get it.
it we have a serious problem in this country when you know essentially I think in large part what we're trying to get at is we as men, many of us are specifically like younger generations of men and things like that, we're confused. We don't know what society wants from us because society says they want us to act one way, right? We get responses from one demographic. I'm trying to play the words as neutral as possible so our episode does get uploaded tomorrow. uh from certain demographics we get signals and all types of stuff that acting a certain way you know is a way for us to be attractive and all these other things, and then all of a sudden you know it's not acceptable. But then if we have problems and I want to talk to you, I want to talk to you, and then all of a sudden you want to a man tries to talk, you don't give a damn.
So I think another part of that too that we've kind of danced around as well. There's a bunch of different ways that you can find this image in online and whatnot, and it's basically the loop. It says hard times create strong men.
Yeah.
Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times.
Right.
And there's one of those, like, there's a bunch like different ones here. Um, like it just kind of, it's like, yeah, like, what if we're just in that, like, where we have
I,
hard times, like we were in hard times, we made strong men, we had a bunch of fucking pipe hitters and warriors that went out there and defended our country for the last 20 years, and we kind of had
I
some good
am
times in that. Now we're kind of, I don't know, in between
I'm
weak men and
willing to
hard
bet.
times.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet we are in that loop right now.
Yeah.
The next article that we got, again, same doctor, Robert Whitley from Psychology Today, was how to talk to a man about his mental health, and he actually breaks it down fairly simply. He doesn't go into great detail, but he gives just enough
I
for
will
each
tell you,
section.
this guy, I mean, he obviously knows what he's doing. He's got a PhD, but like I would be willing to check out this book that he has. He recently released a book called Men's Issues and Men's Mental Health. And it
Yeah,
was it was published back in 2021. I would be willing to check that out. Maybe we
I
could
would be
revisit
too.
this down the road, dude.
Hell yeah,
It might be like to some for that book club that we talked about potentially
damn
doing.
right.
Oh, spoiler
Um,
alert. Um,
yeah, exactly. He kind of breaks down like, hey, like, there's reasons why men don't actually freaking talk about it, and he says, number one, essentially, we wonder if anybody's going to listen. You know, is anybody going to actually, give us the time of day to actually listen to what we have to say? And unfortunately, as we can tell from a lot of the things that we're seeing here, it's not happening. Number two, discomfort with burdening other people. We don't want to be a burden. We don't want
okay,
to,
listen, man.
weigh people down with our problems.
Yeah, that's true. Society does not care about men's mental health. We are
Yeah.
considered toxic.
Yeah.
Some truth to that. No, but like, listen, I've been guilty of that too. There's been times where I've needed to freaking reach out to somebody, and I've just been like,
Mhm.
like they got such good stuff going on. I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, So like that, there's some real stuff to that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Num- you're not the only one. I've been there, and if two of us have been there, more of us have been there as well. And then number three, very obviously, the fear of stigma, judgment, rejection, ridicule. You know,
it's a
all
very powerfully motivating thing, my dude.
yeah, all three of those things, like, it can be an issue. You know what I mean? It just, and it's hard, man. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. And I can agree with every single one of those. And he kind of goes into it, and he says, that basically there's measures we can take to actually, get, especially amongst other guys. Like, I mean, shit, don't let your buddies freaking, especially your battle buddies, don't let them freaking, you know, go at this alone. We're social animals, man. We're not to do anything alone. He says, choose a shared activity.
And
Much
think
of
about
the
that too. What you just said, sorry to interrupt again, but like
no, you're good.
this just came to me. You just said the most important thing. We are social creatures. We are not designed to go through things alone. What is the basic unit of freaking what is the basic collective unit of people in the military? Battle buddy. Battle buddy team. You're
Damn
not doing
right.
things alone. You have one other person there. If anything, just to keep you have somebody like I go back to that scene in Forrest Gump when like him and Bubba are sitting there. It's like, you lean up against me, I'm gonna lean up against you. This way we have to sit with our heads in the mud. It's like, yeah, it's basic stuff, but like there's a reason they do that kind of shit.
No.
Continue,
Um,
please.
no, he says, basically choose a shared activity, especially among guys. This is probably something that is probably the most beneficial. It's the best way to get each other to open up. And he says, basically, much of the research, much of the research literature indicates the importance of an angular approach rather than a direct approach when trying to facilitate conversations with men about their mental health. In other words, sitting face to face and directly asking, "Are you having mental health issues?" is not always the best approach. Duh. Because, from the onset, we as guys, we tend to be, you know, a little bit standoffish about talking about such things. He
Are you
says,
in pain? No. What's wrong?
yeah,
Nothing. Are you okay?
yeah,
Fine.
exactly. He goes on to
We're real
say,
good at them 1 or 2 word answers. Like,
yeah,
can you stop being a stubborn pain in the ass? That's
he
all I
goes,
know.
He goes on to say, instead, a growing corpus of research shows that men are more likely to talk about their mental health while conducting a shared activity where the explicit purpose has nothing to do with mental health. This health by stealth approach may be especially helpful in the chosen activity has some personal meaning and may be associated with introspection and contemplation. My own research reveals several surprising shared activities that can facilitate mental health talk in struggling men, including fishing, exploring urban heritage sites, e.g., churches, museums, or galleries, a walk in the woods, or a long drive through farmland or
Bro, let me. Okay,
natural wilderness.
fucking
Get your
preach.
ass outside and
There,
fucking do something.
there have been plenty of
Do
times.
man shit.
There have been plenty of times where Brian and I have took his Jeep and we went out into the woods, whether
Yeah.
it's the state forest up in with the Coochie or Croom or something like that. We just got out there, dude, and it's like I just come back feeling just like, yeah, that was so right on, man. Like I'm not trying to say I was a hippie or went out there smoked a reefer or nothing, but like you
Yeah,
just come back
man.
like that's honestly like sidebar here, but like Brian and I, we get together and we talk about like Jeeps and if money was no object, I just want to get a Jeep to go drive through the fucking woods and just
Just get a
smell some
Jeep.
trees, fucking go out there, just get away from traffic for a while. You never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's just amazing,
Mhm.
you know. So yeah, absolutely, get out and get out there and do some basic dude stuff.
Basic dude stuff.
If you don't know who we're talking about, there's a guy named Pat McNamara who has
Yeah.
firearms. He's on YouTube and he does some other stuff. He's got a podcast that he does and some other shit. But good guy. He was a Delta Force Sergeant Major, but he gets out there. You got that's another thing too. Like you have this guy and you have these guys that you think okay, badass trigger pullers, pipe hitters, like body stackers, all this crazy shit. He gets out there and he sketches wildlife and does like he's a bird watcher, he's an avian enthusiast,
Yep.
and like he does like some really beautiful pencil sketches of like birds and stuff.
This is all encompassing. Basic dude stuff.
And his like the little shorts that he puts out are just fucking great. But he has so many hobbies and stuff just keep him busy,
Yeah.
and like just simple things like like reading a map, like how to read a goddamn map, like duh,
Yeah.
But little
Mhm.
things like that, man, like straight up, just freaking keeping your head on, keeping things on the level. So
Damn right. So he goes on to continue and say basically, there's a shoulder to shoulder approach. Where he says a key ingredient of all the above described activities is that they occur shoulder to shoulder rather than face to face. This has been identified in the research literature as a critical factor in facilitating the discussion of mental health among struggling men. Indeed, many men report discomfort in the traditional face to face clinical encounter, with one man telling me that they feel fake and more like a job interview than a remedy. Instead, shoulder to shoulder activities are instinctively enjoyed by many, and and the primacy of the shared activity means that a man will not feel he is a burden if the talk turns to mental health. Interestingly, such activities have been identified as a critical ingredient in innovative new mental health programs, such as Men's Sheds, a kind of youth club for older men, the motto of which contains much wisdom. Men don't talk face to face; they talk shoulder to shoulder. Also, he says use non-clinical language. What does that mean? Me man, no use big words. Much research indicates the importance of you. Much research indicates
Jesus.
the importance of using male-friendly language. In other words, we stupid.
Yeah.
And concepts when trying
Poor
to
guys, we're dumb as fuck.
if, when trying to facilitate discussions about men's mental health in general, this means avoiding the language of official psychiatry. Psychiatry. Dear God, I can't talk. See, me man,
We
small words.
we speak worth.
Such language is alien to many men, who will also fear public stigmatization and rejection if they are given psychiatric labels. Instead, some exciting new research indicates that reframing, where have we heard that before, therapy and mental health interventions as programs, courses, workshops of mental fitness, mental training, or mental coaching makes such therapy and interventions much more attractive to many men. What this means in practice is that using this positive terminology may be more fruitful when initiating a conversation about mental health with a man. For example, instead of saying, I think you're clinically depressed, you need to see a psychiatrist, it may be better to say there are some great programs nearby that can sharpen your mental resilience.
Okay, so that's all fine and dandy on paper, but let's talk about let's kind of spin that just a little bit further into
Yeah.
reality.
I
Hey
do
man,
get what he's going
I
for,
think
though.
you're depressed. Hey man, you want to go fishing? Hey man, let's go shooting. All right,
Yeah, let's
we can
do
do
it.
that. Like, look at what happened with Chris Kyle. Chris Kyle was taking other vets out just to get him shooting, to have him do something familiar, and
Yep.
trying to get them back into something that was familiar to them that they might be good at.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the one guy ended up, taking him out and stuff. But like
Then he shot himself right there too, didn't he?
I,
Or did he get arrested?
I'm thinking of the guy that went after that shot Marcus Luttrell's dogs. He's the one that took Marcus Luttrell took out, shot his dog, and they chased him through like 4 damn counties. But I think that guy ended up, the guy that took out Chris Kyle that shot him, I think he ended up committing suicide right there afterwards. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, look at that. He's taking something he knows that is familiar and he's using it as therapy. Therapy can come in just various forms, and it
Pew
there's
pew
no
therapy.
pew, yeah, pew therapy, absolutely. There's that. I mean, breaking down my guns and cleaning them. Like that's therapy, and that's like very cathartic. You just sit there, have all the parts broken down,
Yep.
do your functions checks and all that kind of stuff. There's that. Yard work, yard work to me is therapy. Just put on some headphones, put on my earmuffs overwords. So I don't hear anything outside of that. Just cut grass, like shit like that, man. Like what's been therapy for me recently. I just took a branch down off the tree, one of the trees in my front yard, because it was hanging really bad. Like you could kind of tell the limb was kind of dead, and it was hanging over the sidewalk where everybody walks and stuff. I was like, let me just cut this down, and I kind of went through and took some gardening shears and some loppers and just kind of broke it down into a little piece of firewood. I got a fire pit out in my backyard, and I'll just sit out there and just kind of you concentrate on something small, stoking a fire and keeping it going, keeping the air going to it.
Yeah.
Dude, that's fire pit therapy has been clutch as hell lately. That's been my thing, man. No joke.
I got to agree with that yard work thing. I will say that one major thing that I do from time to time that definitely gets my head out of being in that
when you're
kind
in
of
your own head,
is just going out and doing the yard work, mowing the grass, smelling the fresh cut grass.
So let me ask you this question, because I just thought of this too. So it's not only the fact you're able to focus on something, but it's also the fact that you can take those thought or that energy or that effort, and then you focus it and you're able to produce something like, hey, I cut up all this wood. Now I've got firewood where I don't have to go buy a bundle or a cord of wood from Publix or something. I've got all this stuff laying in the backyard ready to go. Or, hey,
got a bunch of kindling. Let's light it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And all that kind of shit. But also that, but just also the fact of, I totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, sorry. You and a freaking cat. Just the fact of having something to show for your effort afterwards. Like you have a nice manicured lawn, the lawn's all cut, the leaves are raked or something. The cat wasn't having it. The cat was like, "Yeah, no, leave me alone."
Yeah, she was basically like, "Let me out of here." Yeah.
I've been stuck in here listening. Shut up, let me out.
Mhm. Mhm.
Good job being a stereotype of typical asshole person there, cat. Whatever. But yeah, like that's kind of something that I like is when I'm able to have something to show for it. Like I was sitting there a while back and I ended up doodling a picture that I gave to Brian just because I was like, trying to focus on something. And I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination. Like I can fake the
Doodling.
funk if I have to. What's up?
Doodling.
Yeah, I was doodling. It's just like a pencil sketch. It's something that because Brian's got a really cool, like little. He's got some really cool memorabilia from his time in the service up in his office. I'm like, this would be kind of cool. So, but yeah, just having something to show for like all the effort. You're just kind of keeping. That's how you keep yourself like mentally healthy and shit, and you know, getting rid of that stigma by just going, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. But it's important to reach out to people. We're like one of the biggest things that has been said in this conversation is the fact that we are social creatures. We are not supposed to go through things alone.
Yeah.
You know, just like look at a colony of primates or something. They have a very structured social
A hierarchy.
ranking, hierarchy, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like that's just not something. It's like Wu-Tang Clan. It's something to fuck with.
Damn right.
So, what else do you want to add on this, man? I don't really think I have too much more I want to add to this. I pretty much
Yeah.
said what I was going to say. So,
No, I mean, look, people out there, we need to start standing behind. I'm going to say this to the guys first. Guys, we need to start standing behind each other a hell of a lot more than we are. It is it is our responsibility, not just to our fellow man, but especially like if you're an individual who has sons like myself, um, to begin to raise up men in a fashion that allows them to be able to talk about the things that bother them without without any kind of um without any kind of stigma behind it, any kind of you know ridicule or anything like that. um Being a strong man doesn't mean not talking about your problems. It means that you talk about your problems and deal with them. Like we as men are natural problem solvers. Our drive is to naturally figure out a way to solve problems. That's what we are built for. Men from time immemorial have been the people gathering up the stuff, bringing it home to cook, all that stuff. We are the ones that go out and do the
we
tough shit.
hunt, we gather, like like
Yeah.
you know,
We're the
medieval
ones that go out.
cavemen and shit.
That doesn't mean that we are invincible. It just means that just like everybody else, we're human. We have problems. Sometimes we need to vent those problems, even if it's in a simple way. Ladies, allow your men to talk about things without trying to emasculate your men. You're not going to gain any kind of kudos by essentially, without actually saying it, calling your man a bitch.
Stripping him of what makes him a male, makes him a man.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't like
You have to be able to in some way, shape, or fashion, listen. It's in a woman's nature to be a nurturer. It's in a woman's nature to be a good listener. Listen to your men. There's not a whole lot more to be said there. It's a simple fact that sometimes men, we got to talk, and you have to figure out a way to approach it that does not, I mean, I hate to say it, but that does not make us feel stupid.
Well, and it's to add on to that, Alamo.
Yeah,
Listen, listen without judgment. Just listen,
right.
listen. It's like that shirt. There was an ad I saw on Facebook for Till Valhalla Project, which we've talked about several times, and they have a like a new T-shirt that they just put out. It's like, be there when someone asks, be there to listen when someone talks, be there to pick them up when they fall, just be there, that kind of stuff. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, that's exactly right.
damn right.
So,
Damn right.
but to kind of to caveat one last thing on what you said, Withers actually had a good portion thing right here. The comment he left right at 10:19, it says, "Old men plant trees, the shade of which they know they will never sit in. Good people do things for other people." It's like, yeah, that's absolutely true, and that's what it's all about. Like, being there for the other person. It's about the tribe, keeping the tribe pushing forward.
Yeah,
We have a small tribe that we're trying to, establish here and get them pushing forward and whatnot. So it's like, just take the time and listen, man. Like that's all it takes. Just,
damn right.
we're not supposed to go through things alone, especially when we're hurting.
Yeah,
There's support groups out there. So I think that's about as good of a segue as we're going to get into, wrapping up the show, because we're already at an hour and 36. But
yep.
it's
I found quite a few things that I'll probably just end up putting as links in the description, in terms of ways that you can
yeah,
like help guys out. Um, which I can go ahead and start doing that real quick,
yeah, man.
just to be on the
I will.
trail.
I'll start, doing our usual thing. So, yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for those, for War Daddy Withers, for being in the chat room tonight with us. We appreciate it. Love you, buddy. Appreciate having you on here for the input and stuff. Um,
Damn right.
it's the way that we got started with this, was pretty unfortunate. But now that we're able to kind of grow and have these conversations about these topics that aren't easy topics to discuss, that aren't socially acceptable, or they're just not like, they're not being talked about in speakeasies and dark corners and all that kind of stuff, but they're not out in the broad daylight. So they're going, hey man, let's talk
Yeah.
about mental health. He's just like, oh, let me just grab my phone and all this
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
exactly.
So, it's important. Later Withers, love you, buddy. It's it's important, like we were talking about. The reason this show got started is because of a bit of tragedy. It was some mental health that probably, if we had a conversation about mental health, the person who was near and dear to us,
Probably still be here.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at Withers says, it's like, fuck, I can't type. I'm like, yep, this is how
It
I type.
happens. Yeah,
2-finger hunt and peck method. Yep. Typing classes? Nope, not at all. Anyway, sorry. Let me just go back to being semi-serious here. We had a friend of ours who, probably had some mental health issues, or, challenges that just kind of got to be too much for him. And he chose to solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution. And there is not one damn thing we can do to get him back. And it's a shame, because he was a dude worth knowing. He was like just the funniest fucker to work with. Like, he was just hilarious. And he would have given you the shirt off his back, and just a good solid dude. And he's not here anymore. And that is a shame. So from that, we kind of had the idea of working together again, because Alamo and I have worked together. We've been friends for a long time. We've worked together in the private sector. It's like, dude, we got to do something. We got to do something. I'm like, I don't know. What are we going to do? He's like, Alamo's like, let's do a podcast. I'm like, I don't know shit about a podcast. And he goes, dude, they put a monkey in space. And I'm like, that's probably the most sound bit of wisdom I've ever heard in my life. Absolutely. So we came up with the Battle Bros podcast that you're watching now, and
Yep.
it's it's great that it's gotten better as we've gone along. Otherwise, we wouldn't have people watching us and all that kind of stuff. And again, it's not about us. We like just hanging out and having real conversations about real shit.
Yeah.
It's you can't it's you don't get that a lot anymore. You can't sit down and have a conversation with guys and just be like, "Hey, man, let's talk about this, let's talk about that." Especially when it's like everybody has to be PC, or you can't say that. It offends me. It triggers me. Sorry, go fuck yourself. We're gonna talk about it. Deal with that shit. You're fuck your feelings. I hate to say
Basically.
that. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
So when we decided we are going to do a podcast, we kind of started thinking about like our brand, and part of that was the Bros Code. And what the Bros Code is a way of just kind of remembering, hey, I need to keep myself around. There are ways that I need to keep myself here and don't fall down that path and to a bad end of stuff. So it's easy to remember if you can just remember the letters BROS. So the letter B, be tenacious. No matter what you do, go out and do it to the fullest experience, to the fullest ability that you have. Whether it's being a parent, whether it's being an employee at a job, a military member, go out and do your fullest. Don't, like Ron Swanson so eloquently said, don't half-ass two things, whole ass one thing. It's like, yeah, that's some smart shit in that right there, man. It's like, holy crap, dude. Go out there and just do it to the fullest and the utmost of your capabilities, whether it's, you know, like Alamo said earlier with that research, if somebody comes to you for help, talk to them, listen to them, just be present, be tenacious and say, I'm not going to sit here and hide behind this. I'm going to sit there and listen. I may not know what I'm talking about. I may not be a clinical expert. I may not be a therapist. I may not be a psychologist or psychiatrist, whatever. I had a great experience one time where a customer was so upset about something. I said, he was chewing out one of my employees. And I was just like, I said, sir, let me talk to you over here off to the side. I said, tell me what your issue is. And he sat there and cussed me out, chewed me out for about 5 minutes. And he's like, I was like, okay. I said, what can we do to fix it? And he was just like, I didn't get that far. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I just wanted you to hear me and you listened to me. And I wasn't expecting that. And now I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my hands, kind of thing. He had a Ricky Bobby moment right in front of me. So I was like, okay. And then like that guy came back and he goes, hey man, I appreciate you listening that one time. I'm like, that's what I'm here for. Absolutely. They're not getting paid to get yelled at and get solve problems. That's my job. They're here to do a specific skill set of all this stuff. Be tenacious. Listen to people. If they're being tenacious enough to come to you with an issue, be tenacious enough to listen and go, okay, let's try to fix it. What can I do? Mind you, I only have tools ABC. Let's use what we got. It might take you a while. Like that limb I took down off a tree, I didn't have the ability to use a power saw. It took me a while because I'm sitting there using an old freaking handsaw going back and forth. But you know what? It got the job done just as much. Was my arm sore? Yeah. Okay. Still, doesn't matter. I had the tenacity to just say, I'm going to power through this shit. Took it down. No problem. Be tenacious. Okay. R, refuse to surrender. No matter what happens in life, there's going to be times where things don't go according to plan. You might get blown off course. Look at what happened during D-Day, for God's sakes. What if all of those paratroopers that went in behind enemy lines on D-Day didn't realize where they were and said, well, fuck, I quit? We probably wouldn't have established a beachhead at Omaha and Normandy Beach and freaking been able to get the guys on land and bring the material on shore and all that kind of shit. What would have happened? How different would that have turned out? Okay. No matter what happens, just remember that you're there to accomplish a goal, or you're trying to accomplish a goal. Okay. So no matter what happens, if you fall down and get your dick knocked in the dirt, pick yourself up by your own freaking bootlaces, dust yourself off, keep your chin up, square your shoulders, drive on, keep going. Who fucking cares, right? Keep going. Refuse to surrender. Oh, obliterate your obstacles. Like we said with the last one, sometimes there are things that happen where it's going to cause you some, as a friend of mine says, ass pain. you're working on your car and you break the freaking bolt off of getting the last bolt to get a part out of the engine bay of your car. So now you have to go buy another part to remove a broken bolt. So a 5-minute job is now going to be a 3-hour job, and you have to spend $60 extra to buy a tool to take this shit out. That's an obstacle. Obliterate that shit and drive on, do what the fuck you were doing. Okay. Sometimes there are things that happen where you have to maybe walk a little bit longer in the woods to get around an obstacle to get back on track. Okay. So what? Sometimes you go over a wall, sometimes you go under it, sometimes you go around it. Sometimes you get some Bangalores and C4 and some deck cord and freaking turn that shit to smithereens. Or sometimes you do what this guy did and you just back a striker fighting vehicle back into it and be like, all right, cool. There's the door. Awesome. Sometimes you got to do that shit. All right, whatever. Obliterate your obstacles. No matter what happens, continue on in the direction of travel towards your to the OBJ. Lastly, S. Seek out help in a time of need, whatever that looks like. Like we talked about this entire episode with mental health, okay, and the stigma behind it, especially for men. Sometimes society will not let you go and talk to people about it in a traditional setting. Sometimes you have to use the active subterfuge, such as going fishing, going bowling, having some time out, going for a Jeep ride in the woods, going camping, whatever the case may be. Okay. If you need help, there are people out there, whether it's friends, family members, coworkers, whether it's people you serve with in the military, case, whatever the case may be. In the case that you don't have anybody, there are resources out there. The one that we talk about every week is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. There's 2 ways to get in touch with them. It is 1-800-273-8255, which the last 4 letters are the last 4 numbers are the word talk. So it's 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255, or just type talk. They just also started using a 9-digit prefix, which is 988. Again, that is 988. And what's great about that method is that you can call it, or you can also text message it. You can have somebody reach out to you via electronic means. They are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you have somebody or you feel like you're not in a good place and you're wanting to solve a temporary problem with a permanent solution, please do yourself a favor, reach out to these people. If you don't have anybody else that you can, reach out to them. They will get you the help you need. Okay. If you can remember those 4 things: be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need, we can help to stop this little unfortunate statistic right here. 22 a day is the average of veterans that commit suicide every day. And as you saw in some places, it could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, all that kind of stuff. You having issues over there too, bud?
A little bit.
That's all good. So just remember those 4 things, folks, and you're going to be good. Okay. It's not going to be great at first, but it'll hopefully start. It's a start, and it'll get better. So I'm going to hand you off to my dude over here, and we're going to wrap this show up.
Yeah. So, oh, that was a bright one. Haha. As we talked about just a little bit ago, we would like for you, like we said in the beginning of the show, to visit our social medias. If you want to catch us, and in all honesty, like, I know for a fact there are times where things can get a little bit awkward. Sometimes it's difficult to talk about certain shit. Email us, dude. And you can do that at battlebrospc@gmail.com. You could send us a message there. We can respond to you guys at any point in time. Look, man,
we've been there.
Yeah.
We've had those moments where we've had to reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
There's been times where I've confided in him to reach out to him. There's been times where he's reached out to me and just been like, dude, I'm not in a good place. I'm like, all right, let's talk. Put on a pot of coffee. Well, I'm not going anywhere. Okay? And that's what it's all about.
And that's exactly the thing, man. Like, nobody's going to watch out for us better than, our community, honestly. We get it. We get each other. We understand each other. We know what the we know what the feelings are, because I mean, at some point or some point down the road, we've all experienced it. You know what I mean? You can also catch us on the social medias. You can catch us on the Facebook at facebook.com/battlebros.podcast. You can also catch us on the Instagram at battlebros_podcast, where you can contact us via the instant messengers on those services at any point in time, and we will get back to you within a 24-hour period, and that is a promise. Also, if you would like to also I'm telling you, the crud's catching up with me now. I had a lot of
dude.
I had a lot of energy earlier, but now the crud's catching up with me.
All this room spinning with all this Tylenol and shit. You know what movie I watched the other day? I watched Green Mile.
Yeah.
And what's the guy that played Wild Bill?
It's not Giovanni Ribisi.
No.
It's
you keep talking, I'll look it up.
Yeah. If you want to catch us on any other platform other than here on the YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, share, as well as go ahead and
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell, yeah. Hit the notification bell.
Fantastic.
It's
like I had a bunch of shine cherries.
You can catch us on the rumble.com. And all you got to do is go ahead and search Battle Bros, all one word, all lowercase, and we will pop up right there for you. You can also catch us on the audio platforms at Spotify. You can also catch us on the Anchor, which is where we upload our every episode to basically to the audio platforms. I sorted out, listen to this, y'all. I sorted out the issues with Amazon. So if you search us on Amazon, you should be able to find us via the Alexa app.
Get it. All right.
Giggity. All right. If you want to listen to us on any of the other platforms, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and Stitcher. Those are all the audio platforms that we are currently on. And that is all I got right there. See, that's the crud catching up with me, because now I'm clicking on stuff I don't need to click on.
So the one last shout out we want to give, we have a friend of ours who just started a business on the side. Excuse me, our good friend Amelia has a business up in the Chicago suburban area. It's called Sassy Girl Apothecary. She does homemade soaps. We're not getting anything from this. We're just trying to spread a little bit of love, get her going and whatnot. She's had her first, I think, internet order within the last couple of weeks. She makes homemade stuff, like it's all natural products. Like she made some soap for me that was like denim and leather scented, and it was fucking phenomenal. It was just fucking awesome. And then she made some it was rum and coffee for years, right? That's the flavor you use, rum and coffee.
Yep,
coffee and rum.
Coffee. Yeah.
So if you could send her a little bit of love, I mean, they're not expensive. They're like $5. Like, it's really not, but like it's amazing stuff. We also have I have a charcoal bar that I use for like exfoliation purposes. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. But send her a little bit of love. If you check out the link, it's Sassy Girl, spelled GURL, sassygirlapothecary.squarespace.com. Check it out. It is good stuff. We are signing our name to it because, hey, we've used it, we like it, and we're not going to tell you shit that we haven't used and liked. So
yeah, exactly.
That's just kind of, that's not how we roll. But the last thing we want to say is just remember, folks, with our mission here, we're trying to help stop and eradicate the epidemic of veteran suicide because
Yeah.
of our friend John. This is not something that can be done lightly. It is not something that can be done alone. We have to rely on folks out there that listen and watch this show. It may not be about you. You may not be the person that needs to
That's
hear
where
this
Sharon
message.
comes into place, man. Sharon is Karen.
Sharing is caring, as the Care Bears say. But listen, it's all about getting this to the person who needs to see it. You might pass it along and just be like, dude, I watch this podcast. You know, that dude Mac, he's got a big ass head and scares children, but Alamo, you know, he's pretty funny, charismatic, but they got a good message overall. Whatever the case may be, like pass it along. You never know who it's going to get to. You know, we would love to hear. There would be the biggest compliment we could ever get on the show if somebody was like, dude, I was ready to just end it all. I saw a show, you guys were talking, and it just spoke out to me. And like, I'm still here because of that. That would be the fucking just ultimate form of accomplishment and achievement with the show. It's not about likes. Yeah, great. We got 1,000 views on YouTube. That's cool. No knocking that, but that's not what we're there for. I mean, if we got over 1 million, it'd be like, how the fuck did we do that? Like, holy shit, you know, that would be impressive. But it's not what it's about. Okay. It's all about getting people help that they need to get, keeping the people in our culture, in our tribe, service members, first responders, anybody needs to hear it. Okay. We're not going to be prejudicial and just say, which if you're not military or first responder, you don't need to listen to us. Horseshit.
Right.
People go through mental health struggles all the time. We just talked about this in a very very broad brushstroke of a discussion that we just had over the last almost 2 hours. Holy shit. We're talking a long time. So we're getting longer and longer winded as we go on with these shows. But just remember, folks, pass it along, pay it forward, spread the word, spread the news, all that good stuff. And just remember, if you can remember those 4 things: be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, and seek out help in a time of need, you're going to be okay. It's not going to be okay at first, but it's a step in the right direction. And that's what it's all about, to eradicating the 22. So on that note, we're going to start signing off. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 054, The Stigma of Men's Mental Health. We appreciate it. We should hopefully be back on a regular time next week as well with another great conversation. Maybe funny, maybe serious. Who knows? We don't know yet. Can't tell you. But until that time, this has been Mac and Alamo. We are the Battle Bros Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember to hit that like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can get notifications when we're going to be on and whatnot. We would love to see you join us for another conversation down the road. Until then, thank you so much. Have a good night. God bless. We love you. And you stay classy out there, peoples.
Planet Earth.
That was good too. I didn't want to fucking plagiarize the whole damn thing, but whatever.
Battle Bros out.
Take it easy.